In this lesson, we're going to go over how you as a team leader are best preparing your agents to nail a listing appointment and to get a commission that's reasonable for their value signed once they're in front of potential clients.
Similar to training your agents on mastery of the buyer strategy meeting, you want to be sure that you're leveraging the tools and resources that you have available to you through this Reinvest training platform. We have several videos that are designed to take the heavy lifting off of your plate. You should be focusing on giving your agents specific feedback on how they did rather than teaching them everything that they need to learn.
So watching all of those pre-recorded trainings is going to be really, really valuable for agents across all varying levels of experience. From there, we found the most effective way to train agents for highest level of retention is when you have a live example. So whether that's you or the agent you're training, having a listing presentation coming up, that's really where you're going to be able to have that one-on-one direct training.
That's right. So we'll spend time preparing for that listing appointment with the agent. I approach the in-the-field training differently based on that agent's level of experience. If it's a new agent, I'll take on a higher percentage of that appointment than if it's an experienced agent. With a newer agent, I'll probably be involved for about a third or a quarter of it. I'll still have them own everything from the front door all the way up to the kitchen table. They'll go over the market. I'll talk about the valuation for the property, then they'll talk about marketing and process and next steps. That still puts them in the driver's seat, so they're still the leader of the transaction. If it's an experienced agent, I'm there a little bit more as support and backup, and if they need some help or they stumble, I can step in tactfully. I want to be sure not to step on toes though, because again, they're the leader of the transaction. I'm not the listing agent, and I don't want to be in charge of this transaction.
So some feedback that comes back when this conversation comes up with an agent you're training is, well, how am I going to explain why you are there? Which is wonderful. And we're business partners. So the way this should be presented to the seller is that my business partner, Elise Palacios, is going to be joining us. I just joined this team. It's amazing. They're top real estate team in Connecticut. She's just going to be there as this is my first listing appointment, integrating into the new systems.
Perfect. Any number of ways you can handle that. If you were working with a newer agent, I would recommend saying something like, I'm bringing Elise with me. She's my mentor and business partner. She's going to be along with us for the ride every single step of the way. So I know that you know I'm a new agent. I want to give you assurance that I've got the backing of a true professional who's been doing this for years and years. So we're in good hands.
And a lot of sellers want to give a newer agent an opportunity, but there's that fear of what happens if this doesn't go as smoothly as we all hope for. They want to know that you have somebody who's right there with you with that experience to handle those difficult situations.
So that's a general format for training agents on listing appointments or doing a knowledge check if they're a more experienced agent. You want to make sure that they're thinking though through this whole process. With anything you're training on, it's important to ask your agents a lot of questions to get a gauge for what their natural instinct is and what their skill set is. If we go into these training sessions assuming they know nothing, but they're highly trained agents and they have a lot of success already, we're going to damage the relationship significantly. Similarly, if we go into training a newer agent expecting that they know certain things about business and communication, but they don't, maybe they just haven't had that experience, we'll fall flat on our faces in a different way.
Asking how an agent plans to present all of the information you've prepared is really a great way to start with this. From there, you're able to offer some guidance, maybe a possible better strategy to implement, and you're working together and you're not directly training on the steps.
So a lot of the training on how to take a listing happens when you're prepping for the appointment. But as the famous quote says, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. Let's start with some common problems or objections that you face on a listing appointment. The one that comes top of mind is, of course, commission. How do you approach commission?
I love training on this aspect of the listing presentation because I myself have been a business owner since I was 11 years old. So figuring out how to best state the value that I bring into a situation and what's made it possible for me to be successful in all of the businesses that I run.
When you have a live example, an appointment that you're going to go on with the agent, you want to make sure that you're in sync with who takes what part, and you as the team leader need to make sure that you test your agent on how they're going to present their portion. A common example is explaining the market to a seller. I want to make sure that my agent is very knowledgeable of the underlying factors in that market at that time. They need to understand supply and demand to be able to explain those graphs well, including where the data comes from. They also need to be able to tee up the fact that this plays into their valuation because real estate is local. It's not about what they hear on the news. It's about what's going on in their market right then and there.
Which leads right into the importance of an accurate valuation, which we're using the similar process as a licensed appraiser. Not that we are appraisers, but it's important that we're backing up and having our agents able to explain where this information is coming from, that it's not their personal opinion, and why it's important. And it's also not what I like to lead an appointment with. I think it's really valuable to start with what you bring to a transaction and then get to the part that a seller is, of course, wanting to know. When you sit down with them, they're worried about what is my house going to sell for, what do I walk away with, and what do I have to do to get it there. So you've either worked on or reviewed the comparative market analysis your agent has completed. Now I want to hear how they're able to explain this, because it's great to have the proper information with you, but if you can't properly explain what the heck it means to a potential seller, you're going to lose people.
That's right. So it's important to explain what the CMA itself is, what the value for that property is, and how that plays into pricing strategy. And the pricing strategy, of course, needs to support whatever that seller's goals are. It's also important that you remind the agent that you don't send that CMA information ahead of time. That's your closely guarded secret. That's your value that you have that gets you in the door. It's like the key that gets you to the listing appointment. And if you email that ahead of time, you're giving away the one thing that you have that they want.
And I think it's naive to believe that this won't come up before you sit down with the seller. This will be a question that's asked over the phone at a 10-15 minute walkthrough before your actual listing appointment. And I always just advise as a team leader how to deflect this question and say, don't worry, we'll go through all of that once we sit down and I'm able to present the market information and our strategy to get your home sold because you wanted to move to Indiana by August. Is that still accurate?
That's right. And a common thing that I'll say is, it's hard for me to give you a number over the phone without actually seeing your home and experiencing it first. So would it be okay if you take me on about a 10-minute tour when we get to your house? I'll get to see everything and validate the numbers that I'm bringing.
Absolutely. One of the most common objections to prepare for with your agent is going to be commission discussions. You're going to have clients questioning why they should be paying a buyer's agent, or what that even means. They're going to have questions about the NAR settlement, and you need to be able to properly dive into this with confidence so that you don't have that level of doubt that's making them question if you actually know what you're talking about.
So we need to prep our agents to be able to handle those conversations. And it's something that typically the person who's going to lead the transaction is responsible for. So yes, if I'm going on an appointment with a new agent, I of course can handle the commission objection, but I want to prepare them and make sure that they're able to explain what the NAR settlement is, the implications it has for buyers and sellers, and the pros and cons of paying a buyer's agent commission.
And this is all going to tie back into, what do you think your value in a transaction is worth? And for me personally, it's between 6-7% depending on the situation. And I explain that as my marketing strategy goes above and beyond what an average agent would do. So I've got video marketing and all of that extra, which is why I'm able to ask for and state that my clients pay 3.5+%. This is a fantastic opportunity to train your agents on how to get more for what they're already doing well. And this is advocating for their value. So if they're already going through this process and they're already going above and beyond, there is no reason they should not feel comfortable asking for a larger commission.
As team leaders, our job is to help our agents protect their dollar per hour. We do that by providing different resources for our team members so they don't have to do unproductive activities. They can focus on things that bring revenue into their business and to yours.
And having those conversations to maximize the profit they're making for each transaction is going to be extremely valuable for their future success.
You have tons of resources from Reinvest on how to train for listing presentations and the commission conversations that come from the NAR settlement. Be sure to use them and test your team on them.
And as a team leader, keep in mind, just the same as with a buyer transaction, you should be offering connections for stagers, media managers, videographers, and all of the above so that your team has access to the best of the best in the industry. As you see these trainings create more effective agents, you'll also see your team profitability go up, which at the end of the day is why we are in business.